Anatomy of the endocrine system. The anatomy of the endocrine system functions to regulate various body processes through the secretion of hormones, which play a role in controlling the function of organs and tissues. The endocrine system consists of glands that produce hormones that are released into the blood to influence various physiological processes, such as metabolism, growth, reproduction, and response to stress. Here is a detailed explanation of the anatomy of the endocrine system. 1. Pituitary gland. The pituitary gland or hypophysis gland is the main gland in the endocrine system and is often called the master gland because it regulates other endocrine glands. The function of the pituitary gland, namely, controlling other endocrine glands by releasing hormones that regulate various body functions, such as growth, metabolism, and reproduction. Pituitary gland structure, namely, the pituitary gland is located at the base of the brain, in the sphenoid bone cavity, just below the hypothalamus, and is divided into two parts. 1. Anterior pituitary, anterior lobe, namely, which produces hormones that regulate the function of other endocrine glands. The hormones produced include A. Growth hormone, GH. Regulates body growth. B. Prolactin, PRL, stimulates breast milk production. C. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, stimulates the adrenal glands to produce cortisol. D. Thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, regulates the thyroid gland to produce thyroid hormones. E. Follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH. Regulates the function of the ovaries and testes in reproduction. 2. Posterior pituitary, posterior lobe, namely, stores and releases hormones produced by the hypothalamus, namely, A. Vasopressin, ADH, which regulates the body's water balance by controlling urine excretion. B. Oxytocin, which stimulates uterine contractions during labor and breast milk production. 2. Hypothalamus, hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the part of the brain that regulates the function of the pituitary gland and connects the nervous system with the endocrine system. The hypothalamus plays a role in regulating many body processes, including body temperature, hunger and thirst, and circadian rhythms. Functions of the hypothalamus, namely, regulating the release of hormones by the pituitary gland, and influencing the function of the autonomic nervous system, which controls many automatic physiological processes, such as heart rate and digestion. Structure of the hypothalamus, namely, located at the bottom of the brain, just above the brainstem and below the thalamus. 3. Thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is a butterfly-shaped gland located in the neck, in front of the trachea. The thyroid produces hormones that regulate the body's metabolism. Functions of the thyroid gland, namely, producing two main hormones, 1. Thyroxine, T4, which regulates metabolism and cell growth. Triiodothyronine, T3, which has a stronger effect in regulating metabolism, although T4 is produced more. T3 and T4 work to increase the body's metabolic rate. 2. Calcitonin, namely, regulates blood calcium levels by reducing calcium concentration through controlling bone resorption. Thyroid gland structure, namely, has two lobes located on either side of the trachea. Below the larynx 4. Parathyroid glands. The parathyroid glands consist of 4 small glands located behind the thyroid gland. Their main function is to regulate the balance of calcium in the body. The function of the parathyroid glands, namely, producing parathormone, PTH, which increases calcium levels in the blood by increasing calcium absorption in the intestines, reducing calcium excretion in the kidneys, and stimulating the release of calcium from the bones. The structure of the parathyroid glands, namely, small and located at the back of the thyroid gland lobe. 5. Adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are located above the kidneys and have 2 main parts that produce various important hormones. The function of the adrenal glands, namely, 1. Adrenal cortex, namely, which produces steroid hormones such as 2. Cortisol, namely, stress hormone that plays a role in regulating metabolism. The body's response to stress and regulating blood sugar. 3. Aldosterone, which regulates the balance of sodium and potassium in the body, which affects blood volume and pressure. 4. Androgen, which is a sex hormone that plays a role in secondary sexual characteristics, especially in women. 5. Adrenal medulla, which produces hormones that are more related to stress responses. 6. Adrenaline, epinephrine, and noradrenaline, norepinephrine, which are hormones that prepare the body for the fight-or-flight response, increasing heart rate, accelerating blood flow to muscles, and increasing blood pressure. The structure of the adrenal glands consists of 2 main layers, the cortex, outer, and the medulla, inner. 6. Pancreas. Pancreas. The pancreas is a large gland located behind the stomach and functions as a dual endocrine and exocrine gland. As an endocrine gland, the pancreas produces hormones that regulate glucose metabolism. Functions of the pancreas, consisting of 1. Insulin, which regulates blood glucose levels by lowering blood sugar levels by facilitating the entry of glucose into cells. 2. Glucagon, which increases blood glucose levels by stimulating the liver to release glucose stored in the form of glycogen. 3. Somatostatin, which inhibits the secretion of insulin and glucagon, and affects several digestive functions. structure of the pancreas, namely, located behind the stomach and consists of special cells called the islets of Langerhans, which produce endocrine hormones. 7. Gonads, ovaries and testes. The gonads, ovaries in women and testes in men, are endocrine glands that produce sex hormones that regulate sexual development and reproductive function. Ovaries in women produce the hormones estrogen and progesterone, which play a role in regulating the menstrual cycle, pregnancy, and the development of secondary sexual characteristics in women. Testes, in men, produce testosterone, the primary hormone that regulates the development of male secondary sexual characteristics, spermatogenesis, and libido. 8. Other endocrine tissues. In addition to the main glands mentioned, there are also other endocrine tissues that produce certain hormones, namely, 1. Heart, which produces the hormone atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP, which regulates blood pressure. 2. Digestive tract, which produces various hormones, such as gastrin, which regulates gastric acid secretion, secretin, and cholecystokinin, CCK, which regulates the digestive process. 3. Placenta, which produces hormones such as HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, during pregnancy. 9. Functions of the endocrine system. A regulation of metabolism, namely, hormones produced by the endocrine system regulate the body's metabolic rate, control the conversion of food into energy, and regulate energy reserves. B. Growth and development, namely, hormones such as growth hormone, GH, regulate body growth and tissue development. C. Regulation of reproduction, namely, sex hormones that control the development of secondary sexual characteristics and the reproductive cycle. D. Stress response, namely, the endocrine system helps the body respond to stress by releasing stress hormones, such as cortisol and adrenaline. E. Fluid and electrolyte balance, namely, hormones such as aldosterone and vasopressin regulate the body's fluid and electrolyte balance, maintaining blood pressure and body fluid volume. 10. Disorders of the endocrine system. Some disorders that can occur in the endocrine system include 1. Diabetes mellitus, namely disorders in insulin production, which causes high blood glucose levels. 2. Hypothyroidism, namely a deficiency of thyroid hormone which causes the body's metabolism to slow down. 3. Hyperthyroidism, namely excess thyroid hormone which causes the body's metabolism to increase. 4. Cushing's syndrome, namely excess cortisol which can cause weight gain and decreased muscle mass. 5. Failure to produce sex hormones, namely disorders of the ovaries or testes which can affect fertility and sexual development. That is a detailed explanation of the anatomy of the endocrine system. This system plays an important role in regulating many aspects of the body's physiology through the secretion of hormones that affect almost every organ and tissue in the body.